Photosynthesis and cellular respiration, the one and only lesson of Unit 9, cellular energy. Let's get into it. Boom. So today's lesson objective is that students should be able to explain why organisms must create energy and how organisms use energy to continue their own survival. You also will be able to explain how photosynthesis and cellular respiration actually provide cells with energy. So think of it like this. New York City is known as the city that never sleeps. Much like the nonstop movement of the big city, the Big Apple, living cells are the sites of constant, never ending activity. Even when you're asleep, macromolecules such as DNA, RNA, carbohydrates, proteins, they're being assembled and being broken down. Substances are being transported, right? We just talked about cell transport. DNA and RNA is being transcribed and translated, and just like literally so much is going on in your body at any time. All of this activity can only happen by using energy. Energy is what's known as the currency of the universe. But I mean, how do cells get energy, and how do they actually, once they get it, how do they actually use that energy? So, what is energy? Energy is the currency of the universe. It's how literally anything gets done. It's how your cells breathe in and out. It's how your truck guzzles gasoline. It's how your back muscles are keeping you upright in your chair right now. The ability to do work in the universe is known as energy, right? These lights, energy. This heater I have, energy. The facility that distilled this water, that cleaned this water and bottled it up, had to use energy. Your cells use energy to blink your eyes. Energy. So, all organisms are going to require energy to live. Autotrophs, like plants, can make their own energy by using chemical or light energy. Heterotrophs, like you and I, we must eat other organisms to gain energy. Once energy is gained, an organism's cells must do cellular respiration to release energy for use by the organism. Shout out my hero. Okay, so I just said that our cells must do cellular respiration, but like, what is cellular respiration? What is that? Like, I have no clue. It's okay, I'm here to teach you. So, cellular respiration basically is this. Once energy is gained, an organism's cells must do cellular respiration to release that energy. Cellular respiration is the process in which cells actually break down food molecules into ATP, which is the energy molecule, the energy currency of living organisms. So, in order for plants to grow, they use ATP. In order for you and I to do anything, such as blink, move our muscles, breathe in and out, we use energy. That energy comes from cellular respiration. So the energy molecule is ATP. Adenosine triphosphate. You don't have to know that. Just ATP is fine with me. It is basically a multi-purpose storehouse of chemical energy. It can be used by cells in a variety of chemical reactions. When broken down, ATP releases an abundance of energy for powering cellular activities in organisms. So when you get to higher levels of biology, you'll have to learn about the ATP pathways and about how ATP is used in so many different ways. Versus at this level of biology, we keep it honestly, I know you guys may not feel this way, but this is just like so bare minimum, so simple, of like all the different things that your body does. So yeah, ATP is, so think of ATP as cellular money. More ATP, more activities that the cell can do. Shout out Tony. RIP Tony, actually. So more cellular respiration leads to more ATP energy being made, which leads to more cellular activities allowed to be done. So what's the equation of cellular respiration? Like, what goes in and what comes out, and how does it all happen? Well, let's figure it out. So first things first, we have to put in oxygen, right? We breathe in oxygen, and then we eat food, and that food has glucose sugar or some more complex sugar that can be broken down into glucose. So we breathe in, we eat some sugar, and then our body does the rest. Our body is going to use that in some complex pathway. We don't have to worry about that specifically, but just know that it comes out as ATP energy. We also breathe out. What do we breathe out? A waste product, carbon dioxide. And we also produce a little bit of water as a waste product as well. So those are the reactants. The reactants are what goes into a chemical equation. And then, of course, you already know this word, the products is what is made from that chemical equation. So again, O2 goes into this equation. That's why you have to breathe oxygen. So if you don't get oxygen, you die. Because if you don't have any oxygen, this reaction cannot proceed, which means you cannot make ATP. And if you don't have ATP, your cells cannot do anything. So I have a question. Why must you breathe oxygen? Okay. Glucose, sugar. This is why you have to eat food to make the reaction proceed. ATP energy, usable energy is produced. Carbon dioxide, that's why you breathe out carbon dioxide. This is literally why you breathe out CO2 as a waste product. And then water is also a waste product, technically. Even though, we've already know we use water in other ways. So luckily, this process has a waste product that we also use in a lot of other different ways. So you probably have heard of this before. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Well, that's literally what this is talking about. This is that. So mitochondria is an organelle, right? Remember, organelles are many organs inside of the cell, such as the nucleus, the cell membrane, stuff like that, are organelles. So the mitochondria is the site of cellular respiration. That is what produces ATP energy. So ATP is cellular energy. ATP is made in the mitochondria. Therefore, mitochondria is what? It is the powerhouse of the cell. There's a coupled reaction with this, known as photosynthesis. So they are actually coupled in that the things that go into cellular respiration, right, the reactants of cellular respiration are actually produced by photosynthesis. This is why plants are so important. So we're taking it way back, to September, October? I don't even know. It's so long ago. We talked about food chains and food webs. We talked about how energy starts at the sun, is passed on to autotrophs, aka plants, and then they do this process known as photosynthesis to convert that energy from the sun into glucose, sugars, and oxygen that we breathe. So plants do all that for us. They produce that. Autotrophs produce glucose and oxygen. We eat and breathe in the glucose and oxygen. Then our mitochondria actually are going to take that glucose and oxygen, create carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. So that's why these reactions are coupled. We need plants and plants need us. So what is photosynthesis? Well, photo means light. Synthesis means to create. So photosynthesis is to create food and sugars using light energy. Who does photosynthesis? Autotrophs. Autotrophs are going to create their own food using the sun's energy, such as plants, green algae, and some bacteria. Oh. So an autotroph uses the sun's energy. Boom. It takes it and it makes what? It makes sugar. That's known as an autotroph. All it needs is the sun, and then boom, it's got food. It's got glucose. It's got sugar. It's good. However, organisms like us, we come through, we eat the plant, and we get the plant's energy that way. We get the plant's sugars, and we use it in our mitochondria to make ATP that powers the rest of our cells. So it's the circle of life. So again, I'm repeating the same thing over and over again because that's just what I do. I'm annoying. So all of Earth's energy starts at the sun. Then that sun's energy goes to autotrophs who do photosynthesis and create glucose sugars. Then we, heterotrophs, we are going to eat those plants, eat their sugars, and then we're going to use cellular respiration to make ATP energy. So photosynthesis happens and cellular respiration happens, and then suddenly we have energy usable by us. However, plants have cells. They're made up of cells. They are multicellular eukaryotic organisms like you and I. Plants are made up of multiple cells. That means that they also have to use energy, right? Plants grow, they have to use energy, which means that after they make their glucose, they also do cellular respiration to make ATP. Okay. So plants do photosynthesis, yes. They also do cellular respiration. Do we do photosynthesis? No, we are not autotrophs. We do not have chloroplasts. We do not photosynthesize. We cannot just go out in the sun and sunbathe and suddenly have food. So plants are actually way cooler than us because they do both. We only can do cellular respiration, which means that if plants decided they didn't want to give us glucose anymore, well, we'd be in big trouble. They are the boss. So photosynthesis equation. So we know we start off with sun's energy. What else must go into photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide, right? And plants take in water. Then they're going to make oxygen and glucose sugars. So again, we have our reactants that go into an equation, a chemical equation, and we have our products that come out of the chemical equation. So reactants and products. Let's go through them one by one. So all of the energy on Earth comes from the sun and goes into chlorophyll, which is in leaves. That's the green thing in leaves. Plants take in CO2 via their stomata, which if you remember, stomata are pores on their leaves. And then H2O, plants are going to take in water through their roots. After doing all of that, plants make oxygen and glucose. So they produce the oxygen that we breathe, and they also produce the sugars that we eat. And then we break that sugar down into ATP through the process of cellular respiration. So this is just a schematic of what this looks like. Light energy, carbon dioxide, water, boom. What do they make? They make glucose, sugars, and oxygen that we breathe. So photosynthesis and cellular respiration are equal but opposite reactions. So from the chloroplast, which is the site of photosynthesis, obviously you can tell because it has chloro, which is green, it's going to produce oxygen and glucose. Our mitochondria are going to take in that oxygen, take in that glucose, and it's going to spurt out what is known as ATP, which is chemical energy, and carbon dioxide and water that then go out into the atmosphere and are taken up by plants. So, circle of life. Circle of life. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Last but not least, let's do some practice problems with this information. So I use light energy to make glucose, and this organelle is saying I break that down to make ATP. This organelle is found in most photosynthetic eukaryotes and is used for photosynthesis, and this one is used for cellular respiration and is found in eukaryotes. Chloroplast and the mitochondria. Plants and animals exchange materials through the processes of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Which of these statements is true about the way these two processes are related? The products of photosynthesis, what's produced in photosynthesis, ends up being a reactant in respiration. Right? Because energy starts at the sun, then photosynthesis converts that energy into glucose, then cellular respiration is going to convert glucose into ATP. All right, the diagram below represents events associated with the biochemical process that occurs in some organisms. Which statement concerning this process is correct? All right, so the process represented is photosynthesis. How do we know that? How do we know that this is photosynthesis? Exactly, because it's literally showing a plant, it's showing solar energy going in, it's showing oxygen coming out, so it's definitely showing photosynthesis. All right. So we're comparing photosynthesis and respiration. So one of these is photosynthesis and one of these is respiration. You need to tell me which one is which, basically, and you're going to tell me what cell that occurs in. So we're looking at description B. Burns sugar for energy. Energy is released, occurs in most cells. Oxygen is used, occurs in the dark and the light. What is that process, and where does it occur? Plants, animals, both, or none? Burning glucose sugars for energy is known as cellular respiration, and all living cells must do cellular respiration to gain ATP. So this occurs in both plants and animals because they are living organisms. Energy from organic molecules can be stored in ATP molecules as a direct result of the process of cellular respiration, right? What products of photosynthesis and reactants for respiration belong in the box to complete the cycle? So what belongs in this box? Glucose and oxygen. All right, so now we finish up our final Edpuzzle lesson, at least for the foreseeable future. So make sure you do your exit ticket. Next up, we have 10 whole lessons of STAR review. And just know that your STAR tests are coming up. Honestly, probably by the time this video is going up, about a week away. And then ours are getting like maybe 4 or 5 weeks away. So yeah, STAR tests are coming up. We will be using Pear Deck for the next phase of class for all of STAR review, which means that you will either join class during class and go through the activities together with me, or you will have to do the Pear Deck on your own later, which may be a little bit difficult. So I recommend at least joining class during your actual class time on time for the first couple lessons so that you can kind of see what the structure is and determine if you even have enough skill and whatnot to do it on your own. Okay. All right. More information about that to come on Google Classroom.